you'll hear silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Bing, bong, cheech and chong, chimichanga. Hold on, I gotta shut my door. Picking up noises. Okay, I'm back from shutting my door. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to oh yeah, you're not even hearing that. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of The Nance Cast. How you doing? I hope you're well. Yep. Thank you. Happy to be here. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah. Welcome to another awesome and amazing
Solo Dolo Brolo episode of The Nance Cast.
What's up? Glad you could make it out tonight. Hope the traffic wasn't too bad. I came all the way from Phoenix, and boy, are my arms tired. So I'm glad we could all be here tonight.
Dearly beloved, we are all gathered on this glorious day or evening or night, whenever it happens to be that you are listening to this episode. We are all gathered here to commiserate. I don't fucking know.
Anyway, what's up? Time to record another Brolo episode of the Nance Cast. And yeah, I think this might be the first Brolo episode of the new year. Maybe not. I might have done another one, but I can't quite recall. I've done, I think, I don't know. It's almost the end of January 2026. Got like a week left. And boy, howdy, what a way to kick off a year. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's been a year. It's been 2/3 of a month, or 3/4 of a month, or 4/5 of a month. I don't know. But yeah, 2026 is definitely roaring in. It's letting itself be heard and felt. And I don't know, man. I want to start this episode off. I don't want to do some like performative declaration or anything like that. But I do want to start this episode off by just acknowledging, Renee Good and Alex Pretty were recently murdered by ICE agents in Minneapolis, and that's crazy, and that's developing, and it's crazy to me because I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. I already spend way too much time thinking about it. But it's just crazy. It's crazy to see how people are reacting to that. Seems to be the case that the administration is running with the narrative that these people were no good nicks, and they were instigating violence, and they're calling these like demonstrations, riots and shit like that. I don't know. It's just absurd. And the Renee Good thing was, I don't know, bad enough. Of course, bad enough. It's a weird way to qualify that. But then the Alex Pretty thing, dude being, for all intents and purposes, a pretty squared away dude. Pretty sure he was a vet. He worked for the VA. He was a trauma nurse or whatever, at the VA. He was a law-abiding dude, and seemingly a advocate for Second Amendment rights, and also First Amendment rights, and also other rights, allegedly guaranteed by the United States Constitution. But, for all intents and purposes, he seemed like a pretty squared away dude that, most people can get behind, particularly the Second Amendment folks. And it's just odd to me the way the administration is trying to spin it, trying to call him, up to no good. He brought a weapon to a riot. Why would you bring a weapon to a riot if you don't intend to do harm or, blah, 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 this and that. And I think that falls apart on the surface for anyone paying attention. But I don't know, for anyone not paying attention, one does not have to look far to see many, many, many Americans who believe they are standing up for their rights going to demonstrations with rifles, with sidearms, with, arms and armor and all this stuff. And they're lauded, they're celebrated by the administration and the Fox News folks and News Nation and Newsmax and OANN and all that stuff. You don't have to look that far at all. Kyle Rittenhouse was lauded as a hero, and he illegally transported a fucking rifle to a demonstration, murdered, 2 people? At least one, I think 2. Shot multiple people, shot like 3 or 4 people. But people celebrated him because, he was, he was standing up for his rights and stuff like that. But, these same people, at least media figures, want to spin this guy, Alex Pretty, as an Antifa instigator. And it's just, I don't know, it's absurd. It's crazy. And I don't know, man, like there comes a time when I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. That's a famous line from a well-known movie. I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. Most people probably won't know that movie because it's older and it's irrelevant. But the sentiment is not irrelevant. I think many, 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 if not most of us can know that feeling when you reach the end of your rope, when you reach that moment of being mad as hell and loudly proclaiming and declaring, I just can't take it anymore. And I think a lot of people are at that position, and it sucks. I spend a lot of time being mad as hell. And there are moments when I feel like I just can't take it anymore. And I think it's in those moments where we are at our weakest. So I don't know, there's something about like coming together with people who see you as a human being and not just a statistic or not just a prop on the stage play where all this is playing out, but actually as a human being, and having people to lean on and having people to not just commiserate with, but share with and engage in a type of human congress with. Often we, Mikey and I, and people I have conversations with will talk about symbolic exchange. And there's an element of symbolic exchange in it, although symbolic exchange doesn't even exhaustively cover what it is I'm trying to point to right now when I'm saying engaging in human congress with. But symbolic exchange goes a fair way to expressing it. Also talking about luxury from this Bataillean point of view. engaging in luxurious moments of expenditure with other people. Yeah, I don't know, that's different than just yelling at people or being frustrated with people or whatever, or trying to distinguish yourself in reference to other people, trying to differentiate yourself from other people. There's that whole, thing where Schadenfreude, you take joy or comfort in the misery of the other. And I think that's gone out of control. Like that has gone absolutely bonkers by way of the internet. And I think, we all need to take a step back. And look, I'm not accusing anyone or trying to implicate anyone here. I'm just saying, like, for me, I know that's what I need to do. And I think there are an awful lot of people who need to do the same thing too. The thing is, those people aren't listening. So saying it is kind of pointless. And that's what sucks. I think the people who need to take the biggest steps back are also the hardest people to reach. Especially in this medium or this format or whatever. So while just getting shit off your chest is important, I don't know. I kind of feel like spending too much time dwelling on it here in this format is ultimately, not what I want to be doing. But I also do feel the need to acknowledge it because it's on my mind. And it's on all my screens and it's everywhere I look. I can't help but be forced to look at it, and it sucks. So trying to get that out of the way so we can actually move on to something else. Yeah, what's up? Welcome to the Brolo episode, near the end of January 2026. Recently, Mikey and I had a conversation surrounding Alenka Pancic's book, Disavowal. It was an excellent reading, excellent conversation. Go to The Dangerous Maybe on YouTube or Substack and consume that if you have yet to do so. That was excellent. And then a few days later, wouldn't you know, we had a conversation with Alenka about disavowal, but also about AI and subjectivity. We touched on sexuation a bit. We touched on the apocalypse a bit. And that is also on The Dangerous Maybe on YouTube and on Substack. So once again, if you've yet to consume those, do so now. And then come back and listen to this, or finish listening to this and then go, listen to those, or not. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But there's all that. But there's like there's like a surplus coming out of the disavowal conversation that's been on my mind. A few things I've been thinking about since then. And there's some other stuff too that's just been on my mind, wanted to talk about. And I don't know. I don't know where to go, where to start, where to begin. I don't know. Maybe we'll just jump into it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really feeling recording anything right now. But I feel the need to record right now. But like actually going through the process of recording a podcast episode, I don't know. It's just not enjoyable. It feels extra alienating. It feels extra like pointless. And that sucks. But usually, I've fucking brought this up many times, I'm sure. But usually like sticking to it and getting through it kind of assuages those feelings. So I guess that's what I'm hoping for now. is a moment of I don't know, reprieve or respite. Reprieve and respite, that's not the same word. But cut myself some slack or whatever, feel a little less alienated or like a ginormous piece of dung or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. And I feel that way increasingly, just in general. I find myself spending a lot of time talking to people and getting this frustration, feeling like, God damn it, this person can't hear what I'm trying to say. And I think probably most of us deal with that feeling probably an awful lot more than we realize or we'd be happy to admit, because there's something about that I don't know, like you want to be judgmental and you want to be like, oh, don't be a petulant little dork. People are hearing you. People are listening to you. What you have to say just either doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Or is, not as impactful or whatever it is, as you think it is. And I feel like because there's that element that we're all aware of, implicitly, we're all aware. We don't want to seem petulant. We don't want to seem resentful toward the other. But I don't know, at least for me, there seems to be, like, in general, this increasing amount of frustration where I find myself feeling like, oh, people can't hear me. To say people can't hear me, it also makes one want to feel like, oh, people aren't listening to me. And that's a step further, to go from, oh, you're not hearing what I'm saying, to, oh, you're not listening to me. That's taking it a step further, because that does become accusatory at that point in time. That does put one in this modality of feeling like I am vastly important and you're just wasting your time, or wasting my time not listening to me. And we definitely don't want to be that guy, right? We definitely don't want to be the guy high on his own farts, accusing the rest of the world of not listening to the awesome, amazing, important, very good things I have to say. We don't want to be that guy. But I still feel like many, if not most of us, feel this sense of alienation, feel this sense of they can't hear me. Now, why can't they hear you? Is it because they're not listening? I doubt it. I think most of the time, most people are making a valiant effort to listen. Now, we also have a hard time listening in general. So no one's ever going to be a perfect listener. But I think for the most part, most people are trying to listen. So if people are listening and they still can't hear me, then what's the deal? Well, the deal is I'm not speaking clearly. I'm definitely speaking loud enough, right? Like I'm recording myself into an amplified microphone and transmitting it across the internet airwaves to nestle softly and sweetly into your ear canals. It's definitely loud enough. So the problem must be that I'm not speaking clearly enough. And I think that's it for the most part. The onus is on the speaker to be clear and to be legible and intelligible and comprehensible. And I feel like that's like an ethical injunction, I think, to all speakers, and writers and performers and everyone else. If you're trying to say something in general or to a particular person, the onus is on you to speak clearly, to be legible, to be comprehensible. And I feel like a lot of people forget that. I know, there's many times when I forget that, and I find this frustration turning into resentment. I feel like that resentment, I don't know, like resentment. It's such a thick sludge that we all like trudge through. every day because we're all trapped in our little world where we can't help but escape the illusion that our immediate daily life is the most important thing in the world, and goddamn everyone else for not caring about it as much as I do. And you have to like take a step outside of that. And I think most people, once again, most people in general do their best to step outside of that. And actually meet the other on the open field or in the open field. No, on the open field. Both, actually. In the open, on the social field. But there's still an element that you can't escape. Be it late at night when you're lying awake, running through all the disappointments and aggravations of the day, or early in the morning before the rest of the world is awake. And you're thinking back to that one time 4 years ago when that one guy did that one thing that pissed you off an awful lot or made you feel a certain way. Or you're thinking back to that one time where you said that one thing in a really stupid way and how embarrassed you were, or you did that stupid thing. You know, you committed the faux pas and you looked like the dork and the idiot. And, you know, you've largely gotten over it, but there's this small kernel of resentment and there's this small fear that you carry with you every day. You're afraid of looking like a jackass. And that, in fact, colors all the interactions that you take part in on a daily basis. And the harder you try to pretend that you've gotten over it and moved beyond it, the harder you try to gain distance from it without really sitting with it. Because that's the thing, like, you know, in the wee hours, those things assault you. But the initial impulse is to like flee from them. You know, flee into even more deeper aggravations and frustrations, or flee into substance abuse, or flee into, I think probably increasingly more often, to the algorithm machine. You know, scroll on social media or scroll on online shopping or whatever, but anything to allow you to avoid the confrontation with that one thing that you did that one time that no one remembers. Everyone has moved on from it. But, you know, because it's you and because you are your own main character, and rightly so, you hang on to these moments. And they color and condition your daily life. And there's really, you know, nothing you can do about it aside from just, you know, really, you know, confronting it and really getting over it and really like integrating that into like, I don't know, this position of like, hey man, I'm just doing my best and I have faith. I trust that everyone else, for the most part, is also doing their best. Like, I think that's the general disposition, that the necessary general disposition is this, you know, we're all doing our best, man. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. And I think at times it's frustrating because it does sound hippy-dippy a bit, and it does sound a bit like the Big Lebowski type shit, the dude. But I also think it's like the only thing that's going to save us is if we can all adopt this position of fallibility, this position of like, I'm not perfect, and guess what? No one else is perfect either. And not perfect in the sense of like complete, like teleologically, ontologically, like complete, but perfect in the, I don't know, in the everyday sense of the word. Like, I do dumb shit all the time. I fuck up. I make mistakes. I'm an asshole. I treat some people like shit sometimes. And I just do dumb shit sometimes. And so does everyone else. And it is what it is. And you shouldn't take shit personally. Keep it fucking moving. Because we all do have more important shit to worry about. And I think the more important shit to worry about is like this world that we share, the world that we live in, this limited world with limited resources and limited space. But we all also want to have our own little domain of safety, of security, of permanence, of stability, And so, yeah, like I think that's the contradiction. Like we are all trying to differentiate ourselves and assert ourselves in the world. But the world's a small place when you think about it. And it's made ever smaller by things like this, things like the internet, screens, social media, podcasts, news coverage, live streamers, blah, 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 all those things. But I think that resentment, it grows and it builds and it becomes like a toxic core. If you don't have a place where you can actually go and engage in human congress together with another. Now, you may have what you think of as a community. You may have what you think of as a tight-knit group. But if what you find yourself doing in that tight-knit group or in that, in quotes, community is, I don't know, like trying to differentiate and distinguish yourselves from other groups and other communities, then you're not engaging in real human congress. Like you're still engaged in some type of exchange, some type of sign value where you're trying to say those people are not good. We are the good people. You're interacting with people at the level of objects or at the level of props to fill out, to flesh out and support your one-man stage play. If you find yourself coming into groups or, communities with others where you do more than just commiserating, because commiserating can also be a form of trying to like differentiate and distinguish. Oh, I'm so sad about X, Y, and Z. Yes, I am also sad about X, Y, and Z. Let's be sad about X, Y, and Z together. Hey, what does that tell you about me? It tells you that I'm a good person because we agree on X, Y, and Z. So let's make that the main focal point of our group, of our community, of the time we spend with each other. Human Congress is the ability to come together in spite of the world, in spite of real difference and real contradiction at the level of the individuals participating in the Congress itself. I don't know, like if you're really bummed out about something, but you're able to go get with your group of homies or whatever and spend time doing something other than just like, hey man, let's all be sad together. I don't know. I'm trying to get at something that is difficult to put into words, because I think the moment you try to identify it, the moment you try to put it into words, you turn it into this thing that bears sign value. So I don't know. I think human congress takes infinite shapes and forms, and there's no way to say this is what you should do, this is what you need to do. And it is kind of like pornography. It's like one of those things where it's like, I can't define it, but I'll know it when I see it. I think even more so than that pornography, because the thing is, like, you can't define it. It's this emergent thing that only ever emerges between singular individuals. So I think coming together in groups and so-called communities and stuff founded on, strict laws, strict codes of conduct, strict signifiers, all these things are ultimately just going to increase resentment or increase this tendency to otherize or scapegoat this kind of abstract, generalized other. And I think that's the thing. I think we're all kind of casting about and we're looking for something to validate us as people and as participants in the world, because the world feels increasingly derealized. The world feels increasingly hostile. The world is, increasingly feels like it's leaving us all behind. And so we want someone else. We want some abstract authority to say, that's right, you've done it. You've done well, you know, good Padawan. You are a good Padawan. You have done well. We feel the need for this kind of abstract something to console us in the howling void, because the howling void is overwhelming. It's overwhelming our senses, and we can't get our feet, you know, and we can't get our wits about us, and we need something external to come in and validate us. And I empathize with that. But I think
Mellon provided an unredacted copy to select members of Congress.
What do you think about those aliens there, Winston?
On the 9th of December, 1965, residents across Ontario, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania reported a brilliant unknown object.
Oh, look at that. Kecksburg, Pennsylvania.
Before it crashed
Aliens.
near Kecksburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'd seen it out of our bedroom window.
I don't know about you, man, but
This sport right here.
I'm just tired of seeing the same stuff over and over again. It's like if they wrote like the New Testament, but they were like, oh, here's another New Testament. And they just wrote the New Testament like 75 times. It would be the same thing. Fucking aliens, UFOs. Oh, let's watch some YouTube shorts, bud. Oh, cool. Nintendo.
Your clue is next meme. I found this cocoa bean in a corner shop. I don't know why. A date that is.
There's a track that's one of the most sampled songs of all time, but not because it has one part that.
Did you know that there are actually two versions of Super Mario World?
This is Neil Hamburger. I need to talk.
Whoa.
This here is the Asus Zephyrus Duo.
Cool. Television. Nice. Oh, Skyrim.
A new Red Dead Redemption 2 mystery has been...
One of my biggest social experiments over the past month has been changing my camera quality to...
Nice. That's fake though. That was not real. Oh, whoa. Put a shirt on, dude. You're naked.
Oh, look how tiny it is. Oh my goodness.
I found a holy grail of mine, a prison.
Day one of finding the most ridiculous thing at CES. My favorite media.
What is it like to discover your voice as a lead singer and how different?
Whoa. This is porn. Look, dude. It's porn.
I have to sneeze.
Yo, if I could do it, then why can't you? Get up and make it.
My buddy Diego Rainbow from the Philippines just sent...
Hey, happy Thursday, everyone. Alan.
It's the end of 2023. Got the Fender mix head.
This is how I set up my overhead shots for YouTube.
Blind guy on a skateboard. Fake.
Hey friends, it's Desi back with another installment of Republican Beauty Trends. Y'all have...
Ouch.
Shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer.
So my Pixel 10 can.
This is a new Nintendo 60.
Every time I look at you.
What the fuck? What is
Grant,
A man holds down the power button.
Nigel.
If you ever wondered what it looked like inside of a three-way switch,
Do your horizontal threaded holes? This is not just a dog.
It is the best combination.
I'm just glad. I will say this. I don't even.
Want to see something cool? It's it.
Whoa. Billy Blanks.
For those reasons that I just explained.
Hey, it's the Ubu girl.
I'm not mentally capable of keeping track of what I'm saying. Maybe you should rewind it a little bit. Maybe you should rewatch it a couple times. But again, I was responsible for gathering 700,000 followers.
If I could give you an extra 8 inches, would that make a difference?
This is one of the fastest 3D printing.
This phone literally repaired itself.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, Mom!
Why do so many of us struggle with phone battery life?
When there's a smile in your heart, there's no better.
Static icons feel dead, and it's
I wish I was special.
Okay. Ralph Macchio. Yeah.
The hell are we doing with ourselves, Winston? What are we doing with our lives? Been sitting here all day. We haven't done anything. I know what I'll do. I'll call Mikey, see what he's up to. We'll read something, or talk about something, or maybe have a conversation with someone. Or maybe we'll just shoot the shit. That's what I'll do. And by the way, you can be a part of it too. If you head on over to patreon.com/thedangerousmaybe, you can check out what's going on. You can get access to some of the things that aren't currently publicly available. And just know for a fact, more is coming soon. This year, 2026, will be a year of bounty. Our good friend Nick Land recently said it was an Atlantean year. So surely that must mean it's going to be full of, wonderful stuff. So head on over to patreon.com/thedangerousmaybe. Get access to this stuff that's not currently publicly available, and have a more, reliable avenue of communication, of asking questions or sharing comments that Mikey will actually see and maybe respond to. Someone just became a paying supporter at Patreon. They've been a supporter for years of what's been going on, what Mikey's been doing and what I've been doing. And it wasn't until recently where this person became a paying subscriber, all thanks to Christian's awesome theme song. So you can, find all the cool stuff there, check it out, and be a part of whatever we're going to get up to next. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hop on a phone call, see what Mikey's doing, and I'll catch you there. Bye, folks.
The thing is, like, we are precisely what cannot be validated. We exist in this kind of void, this howling whirlwind. We, are eternally subject to this cacophony of silent, fucking unintelligible, incomprehensible, Lovecraftian madness. We're adrift. And it's up to us. Like, we are the things, we are the creatures who have developed this kind of reflexivity. We are this system that has metacognition, that can understand, oh, I am, both a part of human, whatever that means, but I'm also me. I am also this individual. And, right there is a contradiction for the ages. But like, that's us. Like, we are this moment of reflexivity. We are this moment of self that must be for itself. We have no choice but to be in ourself. But far too often we find ourselves being for this general abstract validator, this cosmic justifier that doesn't exist. We are the ultimate source of reality, because we are living in this world of symbolic reality. We live in a world made up of material reality, but on top of that, we have grafted symbolic reality, and that can only be justified by us. That can only be validated by us. So kind of casting about, looking for groups or communities to do that for you, rather than just trying to take up the kind of the fullness of our lack, the fullness of our inability to ever completely, say the final word or give the final summation of existence itself, because we're caught in the middle of this ongoing process. And we're not over until the fat lady sings, as they say. And once the fat lady has sung, then sure, you can be summed up, and sure, you can be totally identified. Although not even then can you be actually totally identified, but you can simulate this kind of total identification. We can talk about people from history as complete processes. We can talk about Karl Marx. We can talk about Abraham Lincoln. We can talk about Martin Luther King Jr. And yes, of course, we're going to be failing to capture them and failing to convey and communicate them as such. But there's this kind of simulation of identity, because identity is the thing that you see from the inside. Or I guess self is the thing that you see from the inside, and identity is the surface of that, outside looking in, and you can't see the unique texture, the unique folds, the unique topology of the self on the inside or whatever. So you can't have an external validation of your self. And when we do give, total accountings or whatever of identities, we're missing the point. We're missing the key ingredient of the person. You know, that person then becomes a prop. That person then becomes a non-player character in the video game. Karl Marx is X, Y, and Z. And I can say that because X, Y, and Z. Abraham Lincoln was, you know, A, B, and C, and blah, 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 this and that. Like when you're employing historical identities, it's always done so to kind of support a narrative. And that narrative might actually line up quite nicely with, I don't know, objective reality or material reality or whatever. But it's always expressed as symbolic reality because it is symbolic reality, because materially what really happened was that, you know, trillions of subatomic particles interacted with trillions of other subatomic particles in very particular specific ways. And like that's all that's really, really, really happening at the level of like material reality. And then, you know, from our vantage, from our point of view, we perceive, you know, the imaginary world, and we graft symbolic reality on top of material reality. So, you know, by way of perception, by way of the sensorium, we then go on by way of cognition to project reality out from us. It's like in Donnie Darko. That's a good movie. If you've never seen it, you should go watch it. There's this moment where there's like this like ball of something that comes out of the Jake Gyllenhaal's chest, comes out of his solar plexus. It's like that. That's the way reality works. Reality emanates from our solar plexus. But anyway, moving away, I guess, from the hippy dippy woo woo shit, I guess getting back to resentment, and the other and human Congress and this and that. I don't know. I'm bummed, and you know, I guess I'm often bummed or whatever, but maybe more so now, particularly, and who knows, maybe in 25 minutes I'll be in a better mood. And you know, it ultimately doesn't matter. I don't know. I think it sure would be cool if you know, people were given the opportunity and the equipment they need to engage in human congress with one another. Like, instead of searching for groups or communities to validate their external identities so they can leverage it as sign value, leverage it as a type of exchange value, to ensure their bare life needs, you know, shelter, food, safety, these things. It would be cool if we all had a little bit more space to develop a little bit more grace for both ourselves and everyone else. I don't know. I think maybe it might even be the case that like all the vitriol and all the resentment and all the bullshit, all the hate, all the violence, it might even start from like self-loathing. Maybe not. Maybe that's overstepping. Or I don't know, projecting my point of view onto everyone else. I mean, I definitely know when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling shitty about myself, I tend to be harsher on others. So I know that for me, when I'm overly judgmental of someone else, it's because I'm being overly hateful towards myself first and foremost. You know, because I'm stuck in one of those loops of like, no one is listening. And that, like, when, like, that feeling that no one is listening feeling, again, it's not like a fuck everyone else. Or, I mean, maybe it is explicitly like a fuck everyone else, but that starts from this feeling of like, you are ineffective. Like, you're not You're not communicating clearly. You're not communicating loudly, intelligibly, or even meaningfully. So that outward fuck everyone else, I think, for me anyway, and I think most people, but maybe not, I could be wrong, but I know for me anyway, like it does start as this kernel of like self-loathing, of needing to get away from myself. And then, it's exacerbated by, those fears of looking foolish, fears of being duped, and fears of ultimately being ineffective. The fear, again, going back to the conversation Mikey and I had about disavowal. There's this fear of like going quietly into that cold night, with not even a whimper. There's this fear of being totally impotent and totally just like this ultimate waste of resources. And I think that, supersedes the fear of being duped, or maybe even that's where the fear of being duped comes from. Because ultimately, if you are duped and if you are made to look foolish, then no one's going to take me seriously, and I can't enact my will upon the world. And look, man, I'm not one of those guys who thinks everything is will to power. I'm not one of those guys who thinks like everything happens because people want to differentiate and distinguish themselves. Like I think a lot of dysfunction happens because of that, but but I ultimately think there's something deeper, and there is some truth in this idea of human congress. There is something that comes out of two incomplete creatures coming together, content in their incompleteness, and not just to complement one another, but to sit with the differences, and to enjoy the topology of the other, and to enjoy the interplay, and like that's it. And when you are able to like really present yourself in this way, and be appreciated, and when you're able to do the same thing for an other, I think that's it. I think that's what being a human is. And I don't think we have that opportunity all that often in the world we live in. But I think there are moments when you can get close, you can approximate it, and you can always strive to do so. And when you're able to strive to do so with other people who are also striving to do so, that's like a pro-social, good time, good place to be, or whatever. But if you're always stuck on the inside of yourself, obsessed with your own topology, and you're only interested in using others to see how they can complement your own topology, or see how they can support you in your quest to assert yourself upon the world, then I think you suck, and I think you're ultimately going to fail and be miserable at some point. Although I think those people often tend to be very successful financially, and very comfortable and very well off. So even that, like that moment of Schadenfreude, where I want to say you'll eventually be miserable, they probably won't. They probably won't. A lot of these people will probably never have to really confront their own lack. They can always run away from their own lack, their own incompletion. And so be it, because life's not about that. Life's not about, again, this external validation, this idea of justice, this idea of righteous vindication or whatever, this and that. That's not what anything's about. Life is lopsided. Life is uneven. Bad things happen to people of all stripes, good, bad, indifferent, and seemingly often without any rhyme or reason. But the reason, I think, is always, choices that people have made. And all we can do is just try to make better choices. So, yeah. Anyway, talking about disavowal. There were a few moments in the Alenka conversation that I thought were excellent. There was a moment when we talked about post-apocalyptic fiction or images of the post-apocalypse. And I was a little bit, I was like, oh, okay. I was wrong-ish. Yeah, I was wrong. Up to that point in the conversation, I had been operating under the assumption that the post-apocalypse and the apocalypse serve the same phantasmatic function. And maybe they serve a similar phantasmatic function, or maybe not. Maybe it's totally different. Maybe I need to think longer and harder about it. But there was a moment where we were talking about this with Alenka, and she was very clear to point out the distinction between post-apocalyptic images and apocalyptic images. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Now, I also think if we're going to talk about post-apocalypse, we also need to talk about utopia. And if we're going to talk about the apocalypse, we also need to talk about like that moment where we figure everything out. So I'm going to use Star Trek because it's the closest thing to mind, but it's definitely not an exhaustive picture of what's going on. But I think for the apocalypse serves as a horizon. I think people focusing on the apocalypse, I don't know, that's a bit odd because I've always thought about this as focusing on the post-apocalypse, either politically or phantasmatically. Thinking of acceleration and Robo Cthulhu, or visions like Nick Land's Meltdown, things like this. The singularity serves this dual role of both apocalypse and divine moment of revelation or whatever. But apocalypse or eschaton or whatever, heaven on earth, that is a horizon, and it presents a moment where your daily life ceases to be, your daily life as such, the daily life that you're living right now ceases to be. It no longer is. And in Star Trek, there's this moment of first contact where the Vulcans come down because we achieved warp technology, and that's the moment of like divine revelation. That's the moment where heaven comes down to earth. And I don't think Star Trek has excellent apocalyptic imagery. I mean, they have the wars in 2020, was it 2020 or 2022, the eugenics wars. I think they have that, and in The Next Generation, they have some imagery of like apocalypse, of like global war, and this kind of really dystopian moment, but it's never really deeply explored. This apocalyptic imagery is never really done in Star Trek all that much, other than a few moments where they show you things like the eugenics wars, or they show you alternate versions of what might have happened in the future or whatever. But a lot of that comes in later Trek. It's not really in classic Trek. But they definitely have this moment of heaven coming to Earth, and it's when the Vulcans come down to Earth, and we start the United Federation of the Planets, and we go on to live in fully automated luxury space communism. Shout out. I want to live in fully automated luxury communism. But at that point, enjoying Star Trek, that's enjoying utopia. That's after the moment. The apocalypse or the eschaton, whatever, is this moment of escape, a moment of relief in the fact that images of nuclear bombs going off and obliterating everyone and everything phantasmatically, that's an escape from the life you're living right now. You know, the life where you go to the bullshit factory and, you know, break your back or slave over a hot stove or, you know, whatever metaphor, you know, get your goat, whatever. But you spend all your time just wasting away, just diminishing, you know. I think life is one of those things that when you're younger, you're kind of like looking forward to it and you're just excited and you're like, man, I can't fucking wait. I can't wait. Like as a kid, I definitely was like, I can't fucking wait until I can assert myself on the world, you know, until I can effectively distinguish myself and differentiate myself and really do something real. And I don't know when, and maybe it was a gradual process. But I stopped looking forward. Generally, you know, I still do look forward, but I stopped looking forward so much, and I definitely was no longer excited. And I started reflecting and looking back and thinking like, damn, dude, what if, you know, or damn, I wish this would have happened this way. I wish X, Y, and Z didn't play out the way they played out or whatever. And it becomes this thing where you're just like, fuck, man, this is it. Like when I was a kid, there were, you know, no limits, man. Fuck, dude, I could have done anything. And I believed in that. I believed in that so much that it was so heartbreaking when I realized, like, no, you can't do anything. You can't travel to outer space. You know, you can't fucking become a Nobel winning scientist. You know, you can't this, you can't that, you can't all these things. But even that was a gradual process, you know, because it was like things started falling away. I had this potential life path, this tree of possibilities. And slowly over time, you know, I started pruning boughs off. But then there's this moment where you look back and you take it all in and you realize it's a straight line from birth to death. And it's looking at that death and looking at that straight line, looking back on the straight line and wondering, damn, dude, what if I could have been able to explore one of those boughs? Or what if I could have been able to, you know, make a twist and a turn, make a left turn here and a right turn there and a this and a that and all those things. But I think, again, in general, for the most part, we all suffer with that. We all suffer with feelings of what if, or why me, or why not me, or all these things. And yeah, life is just, you know, gray and dull and boring, increasingly so, once again, because we're living in this world that disallows us from engaging in rich moments of human congress with one another, engaging in symbolic exchange and engaging in these enriching opportunities and these things that make life worth living, beauty and joy and wonder and creativity and all these things. We don't often get to engage in any of these things anymore. We have to go to the, you know, bullshit factory. And then when we're not at the bullshit factory, we don't have the resources to do anything else but sit back on the fucking algorithm machine and fucking scroll mindlessly through the fucking bullshit that other people create at the bullshit factory. And we're just like, God damn it, this sucks. But visions of the apocalypse, visions of the eschaton, you know, be it, you know, the world exploding in nuclear fire, or be it Satan coming down and, I don't know, harvesting our souls, or I don't know, whatever it is, that imagery allows us to at least, you know, phantasmatically escape the doldrums of everyday life. And so that, like, when Alenka talks about the apocalypse, that's what she's talking about. She's not so much, or she's not per se talking about visions of the post-apocalypse. And so that was interesting. That was, you know, a moment for me when I realized, oh, I'm not making this distinction, and I need to make this distinction. Now, I don't know what follows from that distinction. I don't know, but I do think It's definitely worth noting the moment, the end serves this, serves this purpose to be an escape, because you're not going on. You're like it with apocalyptic imagery or with imagery of Revelation, one or the other. Like it's always an end. It's an end to the present. It's not continuing to go on in a new world. Now, fantasies about the post-apocalypse or utopian fantasies are. It's not about the end of the current world you're living in, or it's not about the end of, your life as such. It's about a new life in a new world. And that's the point. And again, I don't know what follows from that. I do think about the end a lot when it comes to, like politics and theory and shit like that. Like I think we're on a crash course with apocalypse. If we don't change something and we don't radically change it, and we don't do it quick, I think we are on a crash course with the end of the world. Now, does the end of the world take the shape of nuclear fire, or does the end of the world take the shape of a long, steady decay? I don't know. But I do know that the world after nuclear fire and the world after, a long enough time of long, steady decay, resembles this kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy that I also enjoy. Things like Mad Max and Fallout. And it is interesting that there does seem to be more and more post-apocalyptic and dystopian fiction nowadays, although I think it's been a staple of at least the post-war era. Shout out Adam, that book Earth Abides. I think Earth Abides is an interesting take on the human legacy. But things like The Road and The Day the Earth Stood Still and all that stuff. I think post-apocalyptic dystopias have been around for a while now. So to say they're kind of increasing, maybe that's just an artifact of people imitating other works of great fiction, the great enshittification of art and culture. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know I still don't know what it says about me. That I enjoy post-apocalyptic fantasy. I do know what it says about me that I often think about the end. And what that says is that I want an end of the current world. Like I want the current world to end. Maybe the fact that I enjoy post-apocalyptic fiction is that not only do I want it to end, but I want to persist. I want to continue in a new world. And even if that world is, on the surface worse, still, because it's a fantasy world, it's better than the current real world that we're living in. Maybe that's all it says. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting distinction. And maybe that'll give you, dear reader, something to think about, something to interrogate in yourself. Do you love Star Trek? If so, then, you want to continue living in a utopian world. Do you love Mad Max? Then if so, maybe you want to continue living in a dystopian world. I don't know. And I wouldn't even say that it, the quality or the qualifiers of the world says anything about you. I think it's just that. I think it's you desperately want an end. You desperately want release from the current prison that you're trapped in. But you want to persist. You don't want to just do this kind of suicidal nihilistic thing. you believe that existence is worthwhile. And I think that's probably a good thing, because I think there is an increasing problem of nihilism, and maybe just being preoccupied with visions of the apocalypse. Maybe that's the expression of nihilism, right? Because the fantasy is just exit, or not even exit, but end. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why all our memes got deep fried, sometime within the last 15 years or so. And it, all the fucking nihilism and all the just kind of endless meaninglessness of it all. These are people who haven't been allowed structurally to develop this cavity within themselves that for most people, that cavity is slowly filled up with the stuff of life over time. But because people now are kind of constantly stimulated and constantly inundated with the object, with the commodity, there's no space inside them, no space in their subjectivity. There's no void. There's no negativity. It's already filled up, and it's full of just kind of meaningless, an endless parade of pink elephants. And here those pink elephants are just meaningless commodity objects. I don't fucking know, guys. Anyway, there was this other moment in the conversation with Alenka. Well, there were two moments that when we touched on sexuation, Mikey and I have been talking for a while now. And it's just part of a larger conversation with a lot of other people, a lot of other Lacanians, talking about sex and sexuation and subjectivity and like, where does sexuation sit relative to the subject? Is there this kind of pre-sex universal subject? Or is sexuation the kind of moment of subjectivity? And I don't want to get, too in depth in that, because for me, from my perspective, I do tend to care less about sexuation. I don't know. It never did it for me. And while I understand it, and while it is actually extremely useful for many things, taking it to the level of like ontology, or like taking it to the level of like every subject is sexuated in one direction or the other, just doesn't do it for me. I just disagree. But I also feel like I understand better why there's even a disagreement in the first place. The way Alenka was talking about it, as sexuation is this response to the primary moment. So at the very moment that subjectivity emerges, sexuation happens, and sexuation is the shape of the response to that primary moment. So in her view, it's not to say that there is some like pre-sexuated subject or universal subject or whatever, but it is to say that there's this universal moment of subjectivity. And then sexuation happens in the response to that. And yeah, I think, okay, I still don't know if that's the view I take, but at least I feel like I understand it more than previously. My view was just, so does that mean people are saying like every subject is just ontologically either male or female? And when it comes to sex and sexuation, it's not gender. It's not even sex. It's not about sexual intercourse. It's like, it's not these things. So it's already talking in a jargon that for me, I don't know. I don't like talking in that jargon, because it leads to misunderstandings, and confusion. And again, I often feel like people can't hear me. It's a frustration that weighs heavy on my soul. And rather than becoming resentful toward the other. I think, well, shit, if I feel like people can't hear what I'm saying, maybe I need to find a better way to say it. So I don't know, like I try. I often fail, but I do try to just speak in clean, everyday language. Clear, and clean, keep it hygienic. I do try to speak in clear, everyday language, not go into jargon, not go into specialized lingo, although sometimes it's unavoidable. And then when it is unavoidable, I do try to unpack it. But even then, I failed to do so. But yeah, there's a version of me that's the actually guy who wants to get hyper specific, and correct people, if they're using words in the wrong way. The thing is, man, words don't belong to me. Words don't belong to you. They don't belong to any of us. And I think the best way to try to communicate is to use universal language, or try to use universal language. Try to use basic, galactic basic language, rather than any set of particular specialized lexicons or whatever. But I'm not very good at it anyway. But yeah. Anyway, the sex and sexuation thing, that was a great moment, I think, in the conversation. So again, if you have yet to listen, go do that now on YouTube or Substack. But it was a standout moment. And I think talking about disavowal and repression is another standout moment. And I think for me, that's like where disavowal lit up for me is when Alenka is specifically kind of referencing repression and the differences between disavowal and repression. And actually, let me pull up the PDF and see if I can find the specific line that really got my motor running. And it's in, I don't know, the PDF I have does not have page numbers on it, because it's actually, the page numbers are different. The book has large text, small pages, and this PDF has normal size text on normal size pages. So the pagination would have been off anyway. But let's see. The line that really, really got me going, and maybe I should even put that up on screen here. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, oh my gosh, dude. I'm running out of steam. I think I need to go sit down and eat. But before we do that, let's do this. Let's read. And all that, the last few minutes, for anyone who's just listening and not watching on YouTube or Substack, that was me just trying to get the screen right, trying to, set this up so people can see the text on screen. If you're just listening, don't worry about it. You did not miss any important visual information whatsoever. But where disavowal really, really, really clicked for me, I guess we'll say, was right here in this paragraph, repress or else disavow, which is a slightly different thing or a very particular modality of repression. What in fact is the difference between repression and disavowal? we could formulate it in simple topological terms. Repression effectually implies two dimensions or two levels, our reality and another level where what is pushed out or repressed from our reality exists. What is repressed no longer constitutes part of our reality. Disavowal, on the other hand, is one-dimensional, in the sense that what is disavowed does not disappear from reality. It is still there on the same level, part of our reality. Everything is out in the open. We know it well and say so. So, disavowal doesn't make something disappear. Rather, it changes, affects the nature and meaning of this something. We could say that it derealizes it. It affects its character of the real, as real, that is, as an extraordinary, surprising, shattering bit of our reality. When you perceive or learn about something and disavow it, it is because this something has the capacity to change reality for you. It is not just any stupid thing from this reality. The same could be said for repression, of course, but whereas repression preserves the extraordinary character of that thing by pushing it out of our ordinary reality, disavowal keeps it as part of reality, yet changes its character. We could say thus that disavowal consists in making what is for me, and perhaps not only for me, an extraordinary, game-changing fact. An ordinary fact, but still a fact. What is disavowed in its shattering, game-changing dimension, and not simply its fact or its occurring. What is disavowed is its shattering, game-changing dimension, and not simply its fact or its occurring. Perhaps it is this that we like to refer to as a post-factual world. Not that there are no more facts. On the contrary, there are only facts around. Yet they are just facts and no longer carry any weight of the real. Now that, for me, set a million neurons flashing. The two-dimensional aspect of repression, that makes sense because we're taking something that we can't or don't want to integrate into reality and pushing it out of reality, and repressing it. So it's no longer lives in our world. It lives in this other world. It no longer exists, in the symbolic world. The thing with disavowal is you're not eradicating the thing or repressing the thing or taking the thing away from the world you're living in. You're almost like ensconcing the thing in the world that you live in, and you're denaturing it or derealizing it, as she says. You're taking the effects of the thing out, while kind of, saying, no, this thing is a part of the world that I live in. It just doesn't matter. It just, it can't hurt you. They're just ghosts. They can't hurt you. They're just images. They can't hurt you. So when we were talking with Alenka, she kind of said this thing that disavow is this moment. I have it written down here. And this is not word for word. This is just my kind of paraphrasing of it. But disavowal is this moment of integration of the imaginary and the real. And you're ejecting the symbolic from the fact, from the event, from the occurring, from whatever. And you're integrating it into what you think of as the real or what you think of as reality. But because you've kind of excised the symbolic element of it, you've sanitized it. There's no more meaning. It has achieved this status of just pure image where it can no longer hurt you. It's just someone being murdered by, federal law enforcement. agent. It's just thousands of people being murdered by bombs in Gaza. Bombs that were probably supplied by the United States, maybe dropped by, planes that were supplied by the United States. Who knows? It's just thousands of people being gunned down in the streets in Iran. And it's just 40 people dying in a fire on the side of a mountain. Can't hurt you. It's still real. It's still going on. And you can even, gain some points by talking about it. Either talking about how horrendous it is that people are being murdered in the street, or for, other people for talking about how that guy was stupid and he should not have been there. You can use it because it is real, because it is a fact. You can then use it in a form of exchange, dealing with sign value. And you can use it to shore up, that topology of identity that you cling to so tightly and so dearly. You're so afraid that the world is going to come and rip away your identity from your cold dead hands, or whatever. But the thing is, man, that's what people do. Like we destroy our own symbolic identity. Once again, it's like we're inside of an inflatable bubble. And on the inside, we have the self. And on the outside is the identity. And the identity is what people see and what people, foist upon you, what people claim you are. Maybe they laud you for something, or maybe they accuse you for something or whatever. But that always, sticks to the surface of the identity, the outer surface. And the thing is, like, we can't control that. And we don't like that. We confuse our sense of self with our identity, and we reject and we destroy our identity, our symbolic identity, in this quest to try to assert the inside of our bubble on the rest of the world. And it's like, no, dude, those things don't work. You can't do that. You're on the inside. The rest of the world is on the outside. Yeah, trying to use these facts to support this bubble of identity that you're trying to steer. That really forecloses the opportunity of engaging in human congress with others, because, like, I don't know, sticking with that analogy of being bubble boys and bubble girls and bubble people, general people running around, I don't know, human congress would be like bumping up against one another. And I don't know, every once in a while, there is some event that you could characterize as traumatic where something pierces your bubble and changes the topology of your bubble, and maybe permanently changes it, or maybe temporarily changes it, or whatever. Or maybe it doesn't pierce all the way through. Maybe it just, causes a large indentation or whatever, but it changes the topology of sense of self. And then it's up to you, to deal with that, to try to integrate that into this new, new approach at being like, well, I'm just a boy in a bubble. I'm not perfect, whatever. But just like trying to do that without being so fucking annoying. Cause I'm just now had this moment of realization where, God, I'm fucking annoying, dude. But yeah, disavowal. I don't know. I think it's a moment now, right now, we're living in a moment where we should be thinking of disavowal, and we should be aware of how we might be engaging in disavowal. And look, I don't know, maybe sometimes disavowal is necessary. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's something we all do. And so it's not that I want to sit here and say, do this thing or don't do this thing. I can't fucking stand people who deign themselves the arbiters, the ultimate adjudicators of what is right and what is wrong. So I don't ever want to find myself being the guy that says, do X, Y, and Z, or don't do X, Y, and Z. just, generally, necessarily, whatever. But I also think, there are times when we can be like, hey, maybe we should just be more aware, be more critical, try to be, aware of what you're doing and how what you're doing impacts and affects both the world around you and yourself. Because, if you twist yourself up into some grotesque shape, then maybe you'll have no choice but to just go and try to assert that grotesquerie on the world. So you should always be critical, always be reflexive, and always try to avoid contorting yourself into some grotesque shape. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, feeling a bit blue, feeling a bit bummed out. Is definitely not the greatest start of a year. And, look, talking about shit that's going on here in America, to some people, maybe it's annoying. To some people, maybe it's frustrating. Because you're like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you just now waking up? The world's been fucked up. And look, man, no, I agree. The world has been fucked up. I've lived my whole, maybe not my whole life, but the majority of my life, going back to when I was, a disgruntled little teenager, being, homeless at 14, thinking I was this revolutionary anarchist, and I don't know. The world's been fucked up. Horrible things happen all the time. Horrible things happen in darkness and in silence. And sometimes, often, maybe even most of the time, those things are never seen or heard by anyone else. Or never seen or heard by the majority of the world. And so sometimes it probably feels frustrating to have a whole lot of people all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, wake up and be like, oh my God, things are bad. Things are fucked up. When you've been, I've been here the whole time, dude. I've been standing here saying this shit the whole time. I've been saying this shit's fucked. It's a frustrating feeling to have. But again, when I find myself having that feeling, all I can do is just say, well, yeah, maybe I've been saying this all along. But I shouldn't be resentful toward other people who are finally seeing the thing. I shouldn't be resentful that people may now start to hear me, or maybe not me. And honestly, probably not me, but I don't know, trying to take ownership of like, yeah, we've been here the whole time. We've been out here saying this shit's bad. You're just now coming around. We shouldn't engage in shit like that. We should be like, I don't know. Hey, dude, shit is fucked up. Is there anything we could do about it? Maybe. Maybe not. I sure hope so. But I don't know. I sure fucking hope so.